What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with OnePlus Nord N300 5G tips and tricks and hidden features. So stay tuned if you want to get the most out of your device. Now with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G, we do not have a battery percentage enabled by default. Now we do have the battery icon, but there's no way to know exactly what the battery percentage is on the phone just by looking at it. Now thankfully we can add this, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So pull down the shade, and then go to the gear icon to get to the settings. Then from there, go to search, type in battery, and you'll see right there battery percentage. Go there, and then you'll now see that we can easily enable the percentage itself. So now, after going to that, you can see we do indeed have the battery percentage in the upper right corner. And it doesn't matter where we are throughout the operating system, it will always be there. So that's really convenient. So heading back over to this area in the settings, there are some other options for making adjustments to the status bar itself. So this is a bit different from other Android smartphones that I've used from other companies. But overall, I'm a big fan of all the various customizations that we are getting here. So for example, you can see many of these are already enabled by default, and they will pop up when they're relevant. For example, the earphones icon will pop up when you actually are using earphones on the device. But you can see since there aren't any earphones plugged in right now, it's not up there. But one of the icons, like NFC for example, is up there up top. Now, I feel like you don't really need to see that icon because you'll always have NFC on the phone, so you can easily eliminate that to kind of clean things up. Now, one of the things that's not enabled is the real-time network speed, so you can enable that, and then it'll show you up top here what the current network speed is on the phone itself. So that's really interesting. That's something that you really can't find on smartphones outside of OnePlus. And then for that battery icon itself, you can actually change the style of it, so you can see that you can either have it not show at all. However, I feel like that's pretty important to have, but you can also switch it to a loop instead. So you can have it be a circle instead of an actual battery icon. So kind of interesting. I'm not really sure if I would personally switch it over to that, but I'm glad we at least have the option. Now, while we're on the topic of the battery, the next thing I want to show you is how to enable battery saver. So pull down the shade, go to the settings icon, then from here, go down until you see battery, go there, and you'll see quite a bit of information here, but then from there, you'll see power saving mode. So go there, and then now we can enable power saving mode. So by doing that, it'll cut out a lot of different background tasks so you can get the most battery life out of your phone as possible. Now, I don't recommend enabling power saving mode at all times because it won't give you the best experience with the phone itself. But if you know that you have a long day ahead of you and you won't have the ability to recharge the phone, then this feature is definitely very essential. And then you can also have it turn on at a specified battery level if you want. So you can actually pick between 5% and 75%, but essentially maybe you want this power saving mode to automatically be enabled when the phone reaches 30%, then you can set that here so the phone will behave in that way. Now going back to this main battery menu, there's also advanced settings, and over here there's a few interesting options. One of them is high performance mode. So with that enabled, the system always operates in a high performance mode, but it will increase extra power consumption. There's also optimized battery use, so that will automatically optimize apps that are draining battery in the background. Maybe there's a certain app on the phone that's especially using a lot of battery. This will definitely come in handy for that. And then these two other options, sleep standby optimization and optimized night charging, are already enabled by default. And those are pretty good to have here enabled. Now the next thing I want to show you is how to screenshot with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G. Now there's actually 3 different methods that I'll be showing you right now. Now the first method is to simply hold the volume down and the power button for about a second. And by doing that, it'll take the screenshot, and then from there, you can share it or you can delete it. But in addition to that, there are 2 other methods that I do want to show you. Now to access the 2 other screenshot options, we're actually going to go to search, and we're going to type in gestures, and you'll see gestures and motions, so go there. And then you'll see that these 2 are already enabled as well. But the first one is swipe down with 3 fingers to take a screenshot. So I have 3 fingers, I'm going to swipe down. And just like that, it did take a screenshot. And then the other option is touch and hold with 3 fingers to take a screenshot. And you can see after doing that, you can then pick a certain area. So you can drag to select a rectangular area. And then from there, you can actually use the pen tool to draw in there. You can scroll as well if you want to get a more extended screenshot, and there's even other additional editing options. So that's pretty cool. So it's nice that you can use different gestures, and you can of course also use the standard screenshot method with the volume down button and the power button to take a variety of different types of screenshots. Now heading back over to this gestures and motions area, there's actually quite a few other things here that I do want to show you. So the first one is screen off gestures. So let's go there. And essentially, these are a bunch of different gestures that you can use when the screen is off. Now this first one is probably my favorite. It's double tap to wake or turn off screen. So I'm going to enable that. And essentially, you just double tap on the screen to wake it up. So just like that, it wakes it up and we're now on the lock screen. Then from there, you can use the fingerprint sensor or you can put in your PIN code to access the phone. And then also if you're on the lock screen, you can double tap to turn off the display. Now I'm not going to go through all of these because there are quite a few, but here's another one. So draw an O to open the camera. So we'll give that a try. And you can see it did pull up the camera just by me drawing an O. So there's definitely quite a few options here that I do recommend trying out. And then heading back to this gestures and motions area, you can see there's also raise to wake. So if you have that on and you turn off the display, if you simply raise up the phone, it'll wake up the display, as you can see right there. So that's really cool. We also have lift to ear to answer calls. So if you do have a call coming in and you want to quickly answer it, you only have to lift the phone up to your ear to answer, which is pretty cool. There's also auto switch to receiver. It will automatically switch to the receiver when you lift your phone to your ear. And then finally, we have flip to mute incoming calls. So if a call is coming in and you want to mute it, you just flip your phone down on its face, and it will then mute that call. Now with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G, we do have gesture-based navigation enabled by default. Now I know a lot of people are not a fan of this, and they would prefer the 3-button Android navigation, so I'll show you how to enable that. But in case you're curious, to use the gesture-based navigation, it's swiping partially up to go to your recent apps, then swiping all the way up to go home, and then when you're in an app and you want to go back, you just swipe from the side. But to get the traditional Android 3-button navigation, go to your settings, go to search, type in nav, and then you'll see right there, system navigation, go there. And then you can see that there's a lot of different options here. So first thing is, for the gestures, there are quite a few modifications you can make from the default. So for example, you can actually hide that gesture bar if you want to. It'll still work the same way, it's just that the little guide bar is not down there. There's also switch to previous app, so you can swipe inward from the left or right side of the screen, and then hold to switch to the previous app, which is pretty cool. But what I really want to do is switch over to buttons, and by doing that, we now have the 3-button layout here. And what's cool too is that you can actually switch if you want the back button to be on the left side or right side, and same thing with the recent apps button. So you can easily make that change just like that. And then from there, you can go to the middle button to go home, the square button to go to your recent apps, and then the triangle button to go back. Now with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G, by default, we don't have a dedicated number row on the keyboard. Now, of course, you can go to the number option here and get a dedicated number row, but if you want a dedicated number row right here, along with the letters, you can actually do that pretty easily. So when you're on the keyboard, go to this gear icon to go to the settings, then go to preferences, and then from there, you'll see an option that says number row. So enable that, go back, and now you'll see that there is indeed now a dedicated number row. You can also go to the keyboard settings here to make adjustments to the theme. So right now, I have the default color enabled, but let's say I want the keyboard to be blue instead. I can pick that and then apply that, and then now the keyboard will be blue. So that's pretty awesome. You even have the ability to pick different background images and also gradients. So definitely a lot of different ways here to customize the keyboard on your device. Now, one of my biggest frustrations with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G definitely has to be the OnePlus Shelf. So essentially, what I'm used to when using an Android phone is simply swiping down from the top of the display and getting the standard notification shade, where I either get my notifications or I get this area here with various quick toggles. But what's different with this phone is that when you swipe down from the right side, you get the OnePlus Shelf. Now, the Shelf isn't really a feature I like because I feel like it's pretty redundant, and overall, I often accidentally pull this up instead of pulling down the standard shade that I'm used to using. So what we can do here is pull down the shade, go to the settings, then go to search and type in Shelf, and you'll see OnePlus Shelf. And then from there, you can disable the launch shelf from top right corner. So now, when I pull down from the right side here, it just pulls down the standard shade as I'm used to it being. And then for the last thing I want to show you in this video, there are a lot of different customizations related to the home screen. So when you're on the home screen like this, hold down, and then you'll see a lot of different settings and options down here. Now you can adjust the icons, so if you want different icon styles, you can also change the size of the icons and the way that the names show up. So a lot of different customizations there. There's also widget options too, so you can choose a bunch of different widgets. We also have layout options, so you can change the setup of the grid. 5x5 is the default, but you can also do 5x6 if you want to fit even more icons on there. Then from there, we can go over to transitions, and there is a default transition, but there's also a bunch of other ones too. So I'm going to go to cube, and then now with that enabled, you can see that the whole way of switching from screen to screen is a lot different here. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to switch that back over to the default for now. Actually, I want to try roll. Let's see that. So that's really cool. Wow, interesting. Very interesting. So we'll go back here, switch that back to the default, and then you can see there's also an option for more. And that's where there's a ton of good stuff in here. So the first thing is there's a home screen mode. So if you don't want the app drawer, you can actually switch to standard mode so that all your apps show up right on the home screen. But I personally like the app drawer. That's one of my favorite features of Android. So I'm going to keep that. Then from here, we can actually lock the home screen layout. So maybe you're setting this phone up for somebody that's not as into tech and they're constantly moving around their icons accidentally. You can lock those in. There's also icon pull down gesture. So you can open apps on the home screen with one hand. So we'll give that a try. I'll enable that. And then by doing an upward gesture, it pulls these apps down, and then I can choose whichever app I want, which is pretty interesting. Double tap to lock is another cool one too. So with that enabled, we can actually double tap on any open space on the home screen here, and it'll turn off the display. And then finally, we have app animation speed. So this will adjust the speed of app startup and closing animations. So we can go there. You can see by default, it actually is already set to fast, but we can slow that down if we want to as well. And then when you go to an app, the transition will be a lot slower there. So you might have noticed that when you go to an app, there is a bit more of a transition present. But this concludes my video on tips, tricks, and hidden features for the OnePlus Nord N300 5G. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new today. And if you did, definitely let me know in the comments section below. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video.